guys, my name is Isabella Greene. Today I would like to talk to you about how to recognize and move past the victim within our own selves. This is a huge subject, so we're going to only cover a little bit of it, but hopefully this is going to be helpful for starters. A lot of us carry the inner state of a victim. This comes from childhood trauma, for sure. This comes from long karmic journeys, karmic stories, past incarnations of trauma. And hey, who has not had trauma in our human experiences? Raise your hand. I don't know a single person who doesn't. Only the new souls who did not have any incarnations, just a couple incarnations on Earth. These guys don't have these imprints of trauma, but we, the normal old souls, the human beings on Earth, the cosmic souls on Earth with a lot of human experience, we all have experienced that trauma. And so whether it's childhood trauma, ancestral trauma, inherited trauma, or karmic trauma, all of that puts us in a place of every so often, if we're awakened, but for most people, most of the time, feeling like a victim to the world, the victim to our environment, the victim to the matrix, the victim to our schools, the victim to our parents, the victim to our upbringing, the victim to our loved ones, the victim to our relationships, the victim to the system, the victim to the government. Should I go on? Right? You see what I mean? The state of the victimhood is triggered through mass media big time, because that also keeps us in a place of fear. We're afraid to be a victim. We're afraid to be victimized. We're afraid to be hurt again by external forces that are outside of our control, or we think that they're outside of our control. So this the state of a victim supports is supported by everything around us, by the way the people view the world, by the way the people are trained to view the world, and that keeps us in a place of deep personal disempowerment. Because when you feel like a victim, you are helpless against something that you cannot control. That's a definition of the victim. The victim is someone who is in a place where they're being abused or used or petrified, or God knows what, a force that is outside of their control. So as long as we are maintaining the state of being that we believe that there is something out there that is going to hurt us, and that something is outside our control, we are in the place of disempowerment. And that really serves the system and the matrix and the rest of our reality here that is very well structured to control the state of the human being here on this planet. But thank God we are awakening. And so let's talk about how to recognize and clear the victim in ourselves. So that state of the victim, the state of abuse, the state of childhood trauma, the state of unworthiness, all of that brings us to the place where we often feel like we don't really know that, because that's really deep in the subconscious, but we feel that we have to continue feeling that way. That's an imprint, that's an energetic imprint, and it's also a chemical habit of the body, and it's a habitual state of being. So when we're in that state of being, we keep attracting circumstances and people and experiences that bring back the state of a victim. And also the whole state of forgiveness. A lot is said about forgiveness, right? But forgiveness implies a victim as well. When you have to forgive somebody, it means that somebody wronged you in some way. It means that they were the victimizer and you are the victim to their actions. And so you are there to forgive them and move past that. I'll make a different video on the whole forgiveness piece, but I have a different opinion here. I believe that forgiveness stems from the place of being a victim, but the person who truly moved past their past, or past any abusive situations, past any situations that traumatize them, that person is in a place of finding compassion to what happened, finding compassion to the people who facilitated all that experience for them, understanding where they're coming from, and basically becoming responsible for their own journey, becoming owning their own path, recognizing what that path taught them, what kind of training that was, or what kind of lesson that was. And there's really no room for forgiveness. I would say that it's the place of moving on, just owning your experience and making a choice to move on, move past that whole story, and also recognizing why that happened, what kind of state the people who co-created that with you were in, and also recognizing your part in it, and that is playing the victim. So when the victim state of mind is there, we're constantly seeking someone who is going to be the victimizer. If there is a victim, they can be a victim by themselves, right? So when that mentality is running, or that state of being is running the show, we're constantly seeking out someone who is going to hurt us in some way, make us feel helpless, make us feel like things are outside of our control, make us feel hurt. And so that could be anybody. That could be a person at the store, that could be a person that you're driving with on the highway, that could be a person, that could be social media, that could be any of the above. I have a few examples of that in my video about recognizing the pattern of self-abuse through other people. So that's a very clear example of being in the place of victim. But when we need to be in the place of victim, we also attract other victims, and we also attract the ones who will play the victimizers. The interesting dynamic here is when both are in a state of victim, or two people, let's say in a relationship or in a friendship, both are in a state of victim, and they keep passing the ball to each other. So they could keep switching the roles between, oh, you're a victimizer today and I'm a victim today, but tomorrow you're a victim and I'm a victimizer, and vice versa, and just playing that whole game. This is always a co-creation. Very often people would get together in romantic relationships if one is a victim and has a history of abuse, they could attract the most at their highest moment, right? And when they're in a good place, they would attract a person who matches that frequency. And so that person, for example, is in a very calm, relaxed place at the moment. But if there is a little bit of that victim or a victimizer still going on internally in the other, it's only a matter of time until they are going to be head-on, full-on into the game of playing the victim with each other and passing the blame back and forth. So how to recognize your patterns, how to recognize that victim inside of you, how to recognize that we're using the outside world to continue and to support our state of victimhood. Well, I always say that you have to watch your thoughts and your actions like a hawk. Once you become aware that you are the one who is still in the place of a victim, and that's easy to figure out if you have to blame anyone in your life for anything at all, including the parents, then you're still in the place of victim. So if you're there, there is a little voice in your mind, and I don't mean literally like a voice, but I mean there is that state of being that is going to make you feel victimized. It's going to make you feel that there's an injustice in the world. There's an injustice in your relationship. There's an injustice in your friendship. There's an injustice in the world and the government and the matrix and the politics and the environment and the God, everywhere. So when you're feeling that, you need to really become very conscious of where this is coming from and become very aware of all of the thought process and all of the actions that are triggered by that thought process. And you really literally need to interrupt that, examine every one of those patterns, and choose a different way. Examine them to the point to recognize that that's just a story, that's just an experience in your life, and you are choosing to move past that experience to move yourself closer to the place of empowerment, the self-empowerment. What is self-empowerment? Owning your own creations instead of being a victim to your own creations. This is self-empowerment. This is an awakened path. So once you get there and you recognize that, you know what, I'm no longer willing to create this, to co-create this. I'm no longer willing to be blind to my own patterns of a victim. Then, you're gonna still have habits, the chemical habits, the habits of the body, the habits of the behavior that are gonna try to pull you back into the old behavior. But staying conscious of your thoughts, staying conscious of when you're trying to trigger people on purpose, staying conscious of that whole feeling of the voice of a victim, and saying, hey, you know, I hear you, I feel you, but I'm a conscious creator. I'm no longer going there. I am no longer going to play this or feel this. Yes, all of this is going on in the world, but I am not affected by it to make me feel like a victim. I am a co-creator. I'm co-creating something new for myself and from myself for the world as well. So this is just the very basic touch on the whole state of the victim. But remember this, when there is a victim, there's always a victimizer. When you need to continue the state of abuse that you might have inherited or experienced in your childhood, you're always going to find that in your life for the whole state of being to continue. Also, the victim would very often use their abuse or the story of their abuse or even the story of their illness to create the victimizers. This is a whole big subject within itself, but when a person approaches you and the first thing out of their mouth is, I have a terminal disease and so treat me a certain way, and if you don't, then you're an offender, you know. Or if someone who, approaches you with the story of childhood abuse, sexual abuse, any of that, and that's the first thing, or very early on, that's the thing that comes out to make you feel that, oh my God, I could not possibly do anything that to abuse that person anymore and to make them feel bad. That's a mechanism of control, and that's using your victim to not only bring in the victimizer, because that person is going to start walking on eggshells, trying to not offend that offended or hurt or ill person in there, but also it's a mechanism of control. So guys, pay attention to that as well. All right, we just opened up a whole new can of worms here. Thank you for tuning in today. I will be back with more talks here on Facebook and on my YouTube channel, Isabella Greene. If you'd like to have a session with me, you can reach me at isabellagreene.com. I love you, appreciate you tuning in and following me. Take care. Namaste.